be a scientist. I grew up in East Los Angeles and only wanted to be a scientist, went to Cornell and became a scientific monk. I felt it was my dream come true. I slept 3 hours a day, and when I wasn't sleeping, I was in class or I was in my lab. I had no social life. I had no desire for a social life, seriously. And then one day, as I'm learning about the universe, just as you said about the eye, I started asking myself, how is it possible for this amazing universe that I'm studying, how did it come to be? It's a very simple, straightforward question. I was an intellectual, still am. And as Dr. Wang indicated, I'm evidence-driven. I'm wide open. My mind is wide open. And I just wanted to know, how did this universe that I'm studying, this magnificent universe, come to be? And I knew that science had offered me the theory that it was random, that they were natural forces that were guiding random processes. And I actually bought into that for a while because there are very elegant, there's very elegant theories and very elegant mathematics that accompanies that hypothesis. So I bought it, I bought into that. But the more I studied the universe, the more unlikely it just seemed to me. I mean, at some point, you just have to be intellectually honest and say, you know, this just doesn't hold water. The universe is just incredible when you start studying it in detail. And so I started casting around for answers elsewhere, and I remember Carl Sagan, who was one of my professors. I had taken some courses in exobiology from him, and I heard him talking about the Vedas. I didn't know what the Vedas were, and this was the days before Google. You kids have Google, I didn't. So I had to go to the library, and I found out the Vedas are the sacred literature of the Hindu religion, and I was fascinated by that. So I just threw myself into it. Then I studied Islam and studied Buddhism and Chinese mysticism, and then my thesis professor was Jewish, so I started looking into Judaism, even went to temple services with him, Shabbat services on Friday night. I even there was a Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who was a yogi promoting transcendental meditation, and he said something that really just captured my attention. He said, you know, if you become an adherent of transcendental meditation, you can levitate. And I thought to myself, as a physicist, I'm thinking, wow, I can levitate. How cool would that be? I can defy the laws of gravity. And so intellectually, I was like, okay, I want in. And so I threw myself into TMI, Transcendental Meditation International. And then one day, out of the blue, I got a Valentine's Day card from some co-ed I hadn't seen for 2 years. It was signed Laurel. And remember, I had no social life, no girlfriend, nothing. And I didn't even know it was Valentine's Day. And there it was. And so I tracked her down just to say, hey, thanks. Turned out she was a sorority girl from Kappa Kappa Gamma. I was like, have you seen the movie Beauty and the Beast? I'll leave it to you to decide who is who. I was living that story. I was like, what? So she started pursuing me, and I'm like, what's up with that? I don't even know anything, you know? And so I confided in her that I was struggling, like Dr. Wang was in crisis. I was in intellectual crisis. I was just looking for an answer to my simple question, how did this universe that I've been studying come to be? And she said, have you read the Bible? And I'm like, no, not really. You know, I grew up hearing about the Bible. It seemed very unexotic compared to all these other religions I'd been studying. And so I shrugged it off. I said, besides, people who study the Bible seem to hate science, and I'm a scientist, so what's up with that? But then she said something. She said, I haven't read it either, but if you read it, I'll read it with you. And I wasn't as stupid as I looked. I looked pretty stupid. And, you know, big hair, tight jeans, although tight jeans are back. And so it took us 2 years. I bought into it. I said, all right, I'll do it. And that changed my life. And I ended up deciding many years later, concluding, as Dr. Wang indicated, we're evidence-based. I'm not locked into anything. I just go where the evidence is. So many years later, I concluded that of all the religions that I've studied in my life, the Christian worldview answers my questions the best, and it best squares with the latest science. It's that simple.